All right, welcome to the drum replacement, sound replacement series for drums. In this series, we're going to be talking a lot about replacing kick toms and snare, and not so much replacing them, but more blending pre-recorded samples in with them to add more sparkle and body and crispiness to the drums. One major reason you do this is because, say, the snare, you want to get a little bit more sparkle or twinkle out of it, so you start boosting the highs. Well, hi-hat and cymbals and everything bleed into the snare mic while you're recording, so if you give the snare all the high end you want to give it, you could really accentuate those cymbals that are bleeding through and really compromise the sound of the mix. So what we do is we add samples in to blend with the drums that have that sparkle or body to them, and then you can add that element to the drums without over accentuating the parts of the drum mix that you don't want. So let's go ahead and take a listen to the final mix. Just click this little arrow button here to open up the track list, and I have the final mix sitting here. And I'll go ahead and solo that, and we can check it out and see what the drums sound like. Okay, and here is what the drums sound like raw. So they sound a little different. Let's hear what the drums sound like with all of the EQ and compression that's going to be added in after the replacement is in. Okay, so that's what the mix is going to sound like when it's completely finished before we put the replacement in. So basically we put the replacement in, we blend it in, and then we take the levels of the actual drums to where we want them. So this sounds really sharp and like there's no mids or lows in it. The cymbals are just totally taking over, but when everything's in there and it's the finished mix, it sounds pretty full-bodied and nice. Okay, so how do we get there? Well, let's do that right now. First, what we're going to do is make sure that our drums are bussed correctly. So if you haven't done that, you can watch the video on bussing and see how we can bus everything. But a quick overview is we have toms 2 and 1 going into the toms bus through buses 19 and 20, and then out, the toms should be going out to bus 1 and 2 into the drums bus here. And then we have the hat going into the drums bus, and the overhead. We only used one overhead in this recording, actually, so we only have one overhead. Let's see what that sounds like. Yeah, super EQ'd out and a little compressed there, but that's going to the drum bus mix, and then we have the snares going out to a snare bus through 5 and 6, and then out to the drum bus, and then the kick going into a kick bus through 11 and 12, and then going out to the drum bus. And here's the drum bus 1 and 2. So you have all your drums on one bus with compression and EQ. But let's get into the actual idea of sound replacing. So we've got everything bussed out and prepared to sound replace. So let's go ahead and sound replace.